Welcome to heCast, the official podcast of HeChangedIt. As always, my name is Mike Chisholm. As always, I am thrilled to be here. I love having conversations, real conversations with people, directed a little bit towards some sort of wellness, some sort of improvement, some sort of ways that we can take our shared experiences and learn from them ourselves and use them to teach others. So maybe we can help people with things that they're going through in their life. I love that this is a place for men. It's a safe place for men to gather resources, to gather information, to gather tools, and to share and to be a community. The HeChangedIt app is growing steadily. It's very interesting watching an app grow from the ground up and the life cycle. And it's cool seeing guys take advantage of some of the resources that are within the app. If you haven't downloaded HeChangedIt yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Go to the Apple Store, go to the Google Play Store, find HeChangedIt, download it, throw it in your phone, and become part of the solution, which is what HeChangedIt is all about. It's creating solution. We would appreciate you sharing and subscribing to the podcast. That would be amazing for us too. That would help us get to the next level. And I mean, it's not even us. I get the easy part. I get to just host this thing, and other smarter people are there going and building HeChangedIt into something that is going to be really cool along the way. I am the one though that gets the front seat view and get to have conversations with people about some emotional subjects. Sometimes it's really, really emotional subject. Today is one of those days where there's a guy that I'm going to be talking to who I really appreciate for a variety of reasons. We will get into it. And life has thrown him some curveballs that difficult. And we're talking family dynamics here. You know, we've had some podcasts where we've talked about family dynamics, and you know, sometimes the middle of the story can be the really, really hard part. And this story that we're going to talk about today is a father who hasn't had what he would consider, you know, his view and his story and his track record with his kids that he would like to have. And the result of that, it's the result rather of a marriage breakup. And I mean, how many of us have been through that or know people that have been through that? And I just appreciate Ian and his insights. I want to get to know and set the table for this and talk about this. Ian Moore, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be part of this and to be vulnerable and to kind of be willing to sharing your story and some of the things that you've gone through.
I appreciate you liking my story. I find it kind of odd that you're asking me. I just regular person, and that have gone through a tough time. I ended up going through divorce probably 12 years ago. And the sad part about it is that in the divorce, as much as you lose your wife, I lost my kids as well. And for many, well, you just keep trying to get them back into your life, and hopefully one day it'll work. And so far, I had my youngest come back for a little while, and that was great at the beginning. And then later on found out she just was there to get what she could get out of me. And the sad part is it was very hard on my mother. She went the last 7 years of her life not seeing her grandkids. And the sad part it wasn't really any, there's always takes two to tango, but anything that I really did, I was a good dad, tried my best.
Yeah.
We were living beyond our means. I tightened the purse strings and all hell broke loose. And
well, let's talk about this. So the divorce happened 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And you've got two daughters.
Yes. Yep.
How old were your daughters at the time?
When this started, they were 7 and 9.
Okay. And how long had you been married?
Our final divorce was 14 years.
Okay. So you're married for 14 years.
Yeah.
You go along with your ex, you know, you live life, have a dynamic. And along the way, a few years later, that's when you start having children.
Yeah.
You know, at that point there, life was kind of the way that you thought it was going to be. You know, you
had an awesome wife.
You became a tradesman. Let's talk a little bit about that.
I was a tradesman before I had my family.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate. I, like all young Canadian kids, we wanted to be hockey players, and I didn't quite make it. And I was out in Estevan, Saskatchewan, and my hockey was done, and I met a mason, and I'd been doing it ever since.
So we're talking like rock work, like really
stone,
specialized,
brick.
cool stone rock work, fireplaces.
Yeah, I'm very proud of the stuff I've done around Kelowna. I've been in Kelowna now, my business, for 32 years, and done all the stonework, Kelowna Golf and Country Club.
Okay, so yeah, if you haven't been to the Kelowna Golf and Country Club and you have the opportunity to go there and you see the amazing stonework around there, that's Ian right there.
Yep, that's I'm very proud of that. And
you're an artist. You're an artist.
And what's very cool about that is my oldest daughter, Brianne, when I first started doing the work there, she was maybe 6. She has stones that are laid there in the front entrance. There's a couple purple stones that she wanted to lay, and I let her lay her. And the crazy thing is before this all happened, I was very involved with my daughters. They were my life. Brianne and I, we golfed together. We were doing Rockets games together, and then all of a sudden, my ex wasn't happy with me anymore, and life went threw a buzz at me.
Let's talk about that. I mean, okay, so and she was 9 at the time?
Yes.
Okay, so this is your eldest, and I mean, you bring her up. So you're going through the motions of life, marriage, that kind of thing, and God knows, every marriage has its, when you partner up with somebody, whether it's business, whether it's domestic, whatever, it's about give and take, and there's all of the things in this, and this is, I want to be very, very clear. Not once have you ever diminished your ex in a way where your goal is not to bury your ex. You have you're classy when it comes to this stuff.
Well, what I did when this first started, I went to counselors right away. My ex was a teacher, so we were very fortunate until we split up the dividends or the properties and stuff. I still had access to get to counseling with her medical plan and stuff. And that was a really good thing to do because, and still to this day, I will still see the same counselor from 12 years ago every so often just to have a chat. And
did you both do counseling to try and kind of resurrect the thing, or was it?
The sad part was we went through 5 counselors. She didn't like any of them. So.
Okay.
Well,
like you said, it takes 2.
Yes, exactly.
It takes 2 to decide to be together.
I wanted the marriage to stay together. She didn't. So if the counseling, then again, we had judges because it ended up into a custody battle, and we had judges that ordered us counseling and things like that. But it was, she didn't like to hear what they were saying. And so a lot of counseling between the two of us wasn't very well. And my girls were supposed to get counseling and they got very little. And
so there was a division that was kind of one of those things where it was impenetrable. And that division was one that was not going to be rectified. Yep. Now, was it when she was 9? Like, was that an instantaneous decision, or was there a year of trying to figure it out, or was it
fairly quickly? We were in a nice trip to Hawaii. My 2 daughters wouldn't leave my side in Hawaii, and then we just happened to come home, and I got the mail and found out we were spending a little too much. I tightened the purse strings, and all hell broke loose. And she grabbed my kids and ran. And after that, it was just a battle to see them. And I dropped over $100,000 battling to see my kids. She wanted sole custody. I went to court. I was fortunate enough. I did get joint custody, joint guardianship.
But that wasn't the reality of what happened, though.
No,
you were awarded that.
But the damage had been done. Yes. And so my girls, it was amazing. I hadn't seen them for 3 months. And then again, a judge ordered a psychiatric evaluation. The girls had to come to see me, and they were terrified of me in a matter of 3 months. And it's a heartbreaking. If I didn't live it, I wouldn't believe it, that could happen, that your daughters can tell you to F off, and at a very young age. And it was brutal. And the sad part is, it was like, I think I've mentioned before, is it was very hard on my mom. Like, all of a sudden she can't see her grandkids. And
my granddaughter is one of the greatest things in my entire life. Like, I can't, this is a worst nightmare scenario for me. When you told me your story, I was blown away by it. I was blown away in particular the way that you're able to kind of talk about it the way that you do now. Obviously took a lot of healing to get from where you were and the darkest, lowest point to where you are now. I mean, you still get emotional about it. I mean, you might get emotional today talking about it, but the journey that you have taken to be able to communicate the way that you even are right now.
And I was at a lot to Ellen Maniego was a counselor, and she summed it up very good to me. You have a bottle, you can only stuff it so full before that cork wants to pop. So you got to talk about it. And I was very fortunate. I had a lot of friends that were willing to listen to me. Later on, now the guys joke a little bit. My friends, so we thought we might find you, dead in a corner somewhere because of the crap I was going through. But the nice thing is they didn't run and hide. And it's kind of funny. Some of my friends had said, oh no, here comes Ian. We're going to hear about your girls again. But it was a good thing, a release for me because I talked about it. And the nice thing was I had friends that were willing to listen. And I still to this day, because anybody that has children know how much you love them. Like still to this day, like Brianne and I haven't.
How old are they now? So they're 7 and 9 at the time.
26 and 24 now.
26 and 24.
I believe, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And a bunch of crap in between and a bunch of silence in between.
Oh, you betcha.
When was the last time you talked to either of them?
Lisa, my youngest, she was 19. I made my last child support payment and I got a text from her saying, I don't want to see you anymore. You got to respect that. And then Brianne, my oldest, I went to her grad with flowers in my hand and she told me to F off or she'll call the cops. And that's the last communication that I've had with my girls. And, but again, and I hate to sound the gloom and doom and everything, but things happen for a reason. I'm now remarried. I have an awesome stepdaughter.
Yeah. I'm glad we're leading with that because you are living. Obviously, you want your girls back in your life. Obviously, yes. Without question. But I'm really glad that we're talking about this part this early in the podcast. You live a life right now that you got a lot of satisfaction. You got a lot of good things happening and you've healed and accepted, or maybe the other way around, maybe accepted and healed, the horrible part of that situation. And you've kind of,
I sum it up very well.
Which is why I wanted to talk to you about it.
I fell into a bucket of shit and came out smelling like a rose. I was very fortunate. I met, while I was going through this, grieving process, if you want to call it, by losing my girls. I met awesome lady, Bonnie, and she was a widow that was grieving. And she had a daughter that had just lost her dad. And the Lord works in mysterious ways. All of a sudden, we met and we became very good friends. And now we've been together for almost 12 years, I think, too.
And it's funny when you and I had our kind of heart to heart where we decided that, this would be a pretty neat exercise having you on here to kind of talk about this. I watched you with Savannah that day and seeing you with that, how old is she now?
She's now 17. Yeah.
She's 17 years old.
Yep.
And seeing you two, that was your buddy.
Yep.
That was your little buddy. We were in a memorabilia store. We've got a friend of ours a good friend of ours who owns a store we both frequent and sports memorabilia. And she's your little buddy. She was attached to your hip. And you talk about how the Lord works in mysterious ways. I don't know if that's and I'm going to ask you about that. I'm going to ask you if that's a turn of phrase or if no, there's some faith that you got there that has helped to get you through this. I want to talk about that, but how good does it feel to have that? And it must be to the point where you're really grateful for some of the things that people take for granted because you've had that dynamic pulled away from you.
Oh, yeah. You know it. And I hear stories where dads don't pay child support and it just drives me crazy, or this person doesn't want to see their kid. And I'm going, wow, how can you not, and because I fought so hard and has gone through so much they're, Christmases and birthdays and you don't get that. You're waiting for that call on Father's Day and it doesn't come. And, the nice thing is now Savannah, I do get that card on Father's Day and, Bonnie, treats me very well. And the nice thing, well, just this Father's Day and Facebook, I know it's trivial for a lot of people, but the little things sometimes mean a lot on there when, Bonnie says, I appreciate Ian for stepping up for Savannah and things like that. And it just,
And she throws that out publicly. She throws that out public. Yeah.
Yes. And makes a guy feel really good. And, I'm very proud of myself that I didn't blow myself away in the deepest, darkest times, because there was a time that the court said I couldn't see my daughters, and I'm going, what the heck is going on?
So I want to talk about that. I want to ask you when the darkest moment was, but before we do, I just want to distinguish with that. Again, we're not trying to bury anybody or anything here.
Oh, no.
You went through some shit. You've got your side of the story. There's the other side of the story. I mean, there's many official documents though, showing your side and how things were supposed to be. They weren't that way. One of the things is someone saying, well, why is your mom mad at your dad? Well, she won't do something with the mortgage. Like why would a kid be able to say that kind of stuff? Right. Yes. And so we're not burying anybody, but at the end of the day, if you read just read everything, it will look very much like Ian got a shitty deal out of this.
Oh, definitely.
And and again, we're not trying to bury anybody. But there was a point where the courts were listening to some of the stuff that was being said. And then it turned out later on that was all unfounded.
Yes.
But the courts actually said you couldn't see the kids.
For 3 months, yes.
3 months.
Until we got in front of a judge, yes.
Was that the darkest point of the whole thing, or did it get darker afterwards?
That was probably the darkest, just because you want to go and see your kids and you can't, because all of a sudden you could end up in jail or
and your heart, you're not a
bad guy. No. And that was what was the toughest. And more so after the 3 months, and I did finally get to see my daughters, and to see them terrified of me, that was very heartbreaking, because they were screaming and crying and didn't want to be near me. And yet 3 months before, we were in Hawaii, and my daughter wouldn't leave my side scuba diving and things like that. And it just, later on, I got involved with a fella who wrote a book called Divorce Poison. Dr. Warshak was his name. Yep. He wrote a book called Divorce Poisoning, and he really helped me as well. Was a good counselor.
He himself, or the book, or both?
Both.
So, okay, because there are going to be guys, whether it's in 2021 or 2028 or 2045, there are going to be guys who listen to this podcast and see or view this podcast who are going through this shit.
Exactly.
And because you're not the first guy that this has happened to. Most of us as men have met somebody who has gone through divorce and it has not gone their way, to say the least. Never mind all the other things that could be said, but we're being as positive as we can here. Would you recommend that book?
Oh, definitely. And I've passed it on. And it's a sad part is, and
it's called Divorce Poison.
Yes. By Dr. Richard Warshak.
Okay.
And
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but this is the success leaves clues. So too does survival. Survival also leaves clues.
Yeah.
And you are a survivor. And again, I've got so much respect for you going through what you've going through, what many would consider a worst nightmare scenario. You got guys who are in that scenario right now. So this is where I'm really grateful that you can drop these clues.
I have a very good buddy right now that's going through it, and that's why I know the book well right now, because I've just dug it out recently to him and passed it on to him, and I just hopefully, because when I first started this, I never realized how often it happens. It's called Parental Alienation Syndrome, and there is a title for it, and when I first started, I went on to YouTube and looking at things. I'm going, wow, I'm not the only guy. And then, like you say, you tell people about it. You go, oh yeah, I've got an uncle that went through that. And
that's what HeChangedIt is all about.
Yes, exactly.
It's us connecting instead of going into our little silos.
Yes,
and being alone.
Yeah.
Which
and that's what I can
right?
suggest to people that are going through this, if you can. And like I say, from my counselor, she said, talk about it the most, let it out, get it out, because if you bottle it up, it just festers. And then, like I say, I'm very fortunate that I had a lot of good friends and that were willing to listen. And like I say, and some of them later on said they would have liked to have ran away and not hear the stories, because some of them aren't. But because the gloom and doom for a while, when you're going through it, you're not always cheery. And like I say, until I guess it's probably just been in the last 5-6 years that it's really not this gets easier, but can handle it better. And when you have and what I did is I distracted myself a lot. And that's why I think that I do very good work. When I wake up first thing in the morning, I always think of my girls. It's in your brain 100 all the time. So what I'd have to do is I wake
Still
up
to this day.
Oh yes. I wake up this morning. What can I do to because the sad part is I had a friend passed away not too long ago, and his brother said a very nice thing about him, saying that everything was in order in his life when he passed away. Myself, I don't find, and I'm a very organized fella and perfectionist and everything. My life isn't.
You have to live with the fact that your life's not in order.
Exactly, and it's it's challenging. And I have a box of all the documents and everything, but I would rather not let my girls read that when I pass away, more so that I can rekindle a relationship before I go. And
I can't imagine how, I want this to be a happy ending for you. And I mean, I hope that we're in the middle of the story still.
Oh, exactly. That's the way I look at it too, is that counselors always said when girls get older, they'll 20s, 30s, once they start having kids, they start to look for their dad a little bit more. And that's what I'm hoping for. Millennials might be a little different because
they broke the mold, didn't they?
Exactly. Yes. And so I'm hoping now maybe the 30s, and because people are having kids later and stuff like that.
So you have hope, but it seems to be realistic hope.
Oh, definitely. My youngest, like I say, she came around from the time she was 13 to 19. And I know a lot of it was just for monetary things, and which was a bit of a shame. But
that being said, you were okay with that though. Like, I mean, you talk about the love for a child.
Yes.
You're like, well, okay. Like with my granddaughter, I will buy her love. Like her, if I can.
Yeah. And Bonnie, my wife, she kept me aware of that, because the nice thing is I had Bonnie in the background kind of
steering you or warning you. Or
exactly. Giving me the reality.
She was your co-pilot.
Yes, very much so, and still is. And it just knowing that that I don't jump in too deep, and so that I would get hurt.
Did your stepdaughter and your daughter connect well during those years?
Yes, and it was very heartbreaking when my youngest ran away again.
It was heartbreaking for Savannah.
Oh yeah, she had a big sister now. And we went to Disneyland together. We went to Mexico together.
Wow.
Savannah is, what would be 7, 8 years different. So she looked up to Lisa
that's a big deal when you've got the 7 year. My sister is 7 years older than me. Yeah. And she was my hero. When my sister would take me like downtown to Regatta in the summertime or things like that, that was one of the greatest things. Like I'm 45 right now. And I'm talking about when my sister would do that for me. Yeah. Your youngest must have been that way for Savannah.
Definitely. They weren't that close. Like it was more like some dinners when they come over. So they weren't living together.
No, but the hero worship for the younger one.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And all of a sudden then at 19, it was very sad. I got a text I was trying to line up, what are we doing for your birthday? And sorry, I don't want to see you. You got to respect that. And I went to her work and she went and hid and you can only chase so much, it's like, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink, and I never imagined that was going on so badly to the point that she just right out of her life again.
Yeah, Bonnie was kind of giving you that advice, but you didn't think it would be that that stark of
because Bonnie's saying, she's using you, Ian, and I know, but at the same time, I would buy a lovely fancy dinner to sit across from my daughter.
Absolutely. I understand that. And I think a lot of people out there who have that relationship with a child in their life would be able to identify with that and kind of reconcile that with themselves too.
Yep, exactly.
I feel that way. Have you and Savannah ever talked about this? Has Savannah ever expressed her kind of, hey, how come this happened? And
a little bit, not a lot though.
Yeah.
No. She was disappointed that she thought she had a sister and all of a sudden it was gone. And there's pictures of us, Lisa and Savannah and stuff, our Disneyland trip in the house and stuff. So, and they know that it's a heartbreaking thing. Like not that we brush it under the table and like it always comes up. But what's kind of funny is I can now see what my daughter Lisa is an Instagram influencer, I believe.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have been able to see pictures of her on Instagram and stuff like that. And so I do get to see her now where like my oldest Brianne, she's got me blocked out really good. I cannot.
What does she do for a living? Do you know?
No, I do not. She went to Queens to become a nurse. She's a brilliant girl. I was so proud of her at grad. She ended up with bursaries and she was the valedictorian. There's a scholarship at Mount Boucherie of her name on it. And she started the Global Cafe there. Just a brilliant girl. And the sad part is I don't know what the heck she's doing.
Okay, that's a sad part. And it's of course sad that you don't know. But let me ask you this. Are you proud of your girls?
Oh, definitely. Yes. Both of them.
You love
all
girls?
three of them.
You love your girls?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
All three of them. Oh, all three of them. You just got me in the heart there saying that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you throw Savannah in there too. And I mean, just so proud of them.
The sad part is Savannah's more of a daughter than my two because she has spent more time with me. Because now, like I say, I've been with Bonnie for 12 years and the girls were only around, a good relationship till kind of 10, So
you said, thank the Lord for that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you had this big gap in your life and that gap was, not filled, but satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
You said thank the Lord for that. Is that a euphemism or is that a simile or no? Is there real spiritual? You got some spiritual faith there.
Yes. I know I'm going to heaven when I pass away, and I'll see my girls. I'll see my dad. Yeah.
So you got a faith that is unshakable.
Yes. Very much so.
Now, I mean, we talk about faith in the HeChangedIt app. We talk about all the different fitnesses. There's your mental fitness, there's your emotional fitness, there's your physical fitness. But then we talk about your spiritual fitness or your soul fitness. And I mean, to that, everybody has their own different kind of a definition of what that is because we're all unique and we all find different truths in different places. That being said, how important was your faith? Did you have your faith before this started? I know you went to counseling and stuff right away, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Success leaves clues, survival leaves clues. Going to counseling right away is good. Reading some of these books is good. Did you have your faith right away, or was that something that developed and you found when you were kind of in that rock bottom place?
I had faith before. Yeah. And both Bonnie and I, my ex Bev, we both were Christians, and that was the way we brought up our girls, and it's always, not always, it wasn't until Estevan, Saskatchewan. I met a couple of my good buddies, Randy and Oral. They prayed immensely for me. And I one day got up in church and I've been a Christian.
How old were you when that happened?
26, maybe.
So you were a man.
Yeah.
You were a man at that point. And I mean, it's funny. I always talk to people about, I get into philosophical conversations with people around me so much. And I talk about religion versus faith, and sometimes those two things are different. But I mean, you talk about faith and then you think you have it until the shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
And then it gets tested. And then you
very much so.
And then you got to think, is this real? Yeah. Does this hold up?
Why would God do this?
It's like, whoa, man. And then there can be the blame game.
Yeah,
like,
exactly,
hey, I showed faith in you. Why are you like that kind of conversation starts. Exactly. And it's like riding, I got faith in this bridge, but then you start walking on the bridge.
Yeah.
And you hear it creaking a little bit. And do you have, were there ever any times during the darkest times where your faith was questioned, where you're like, is this enough? Is this the right? Is this went to some pretty dark places during this.
Yes.
Was your faith ever tested?
Definitely tested, but I didn't let it break it because more so I had to keep going because I didn't want my girls to see me. More so what my ex was saying for the girls to see that true. Do you know what I mean? So I had to be the better man.
You did not want to make what your ex was saying true in any way, shape, or form.
Exactly. Yes. And so that's why I made a point of going to the counseling and made a point of reading these books. So it's like I'm not a reader, believe me. I'm a Mason. And I had trouble loading your app, but I did load it. So, okay. And things like that. But so
that's going to be easier in future iterations of the app. We're still at startup phase, but no, I'm kidding.
Just a dumb bricklayer. But it just, I couldn't let her let them know that that's right. That, oh, your dad, like, I didn't want to be crying in the corner and broken man or whatever. And so but the biggest, like I say, I listened and tried to listen to the counselors, read this book, different books too. There's another Dr. Randy Rand was another fellow that my lawyer and I reached out to as well. And Dr. Altman, who did the psychiatric evaluation on our family, I'd reach out to these people. We had to pay huge money for this. And so I thought, why not take advantage of this is what they do for livings. There's,
and let's talk about the money for a second. You've spent over $100,000 trying to keep your girls in your life.
Oh, definitely in court costs
and in truths and counseling and all of these things.
Yes.
You put your money where your mouth is, and I mean, you basically went until you had to accept the fact that this is the reality.
Exactly.
Now, obviously, the tools that you were gaining along the way with the spiritual help, with the doctors, the counseling, the reading of the books, all that helped you when you finally did face that reality.
It's done.
Was there one moment where you said acceptance is here, or was acceptance something that evolved?
There was one point, because again, every time I went to court, I won. Like I say, and not that
you
anybody
won, quote unquote.
Exactly.
Yeah,
not that anybody won. I didn't.
No.
But
on paper, it's
yes,
like,
I got joint custody, joint guardianship. My lawyer and I left high fiving. All right, I'm going to see my
girls back. Oh, thank God.
Exactly. But then we did that, and then found out that the girls, they don't still want to see me, even though the judge says they're supposed to and everything. They don't want to see me. And then the next step was an appeal. And that was going to be another 30 grand. And Bonnie and I, because the nice thing is like this, well, this took years, as much as it sounds like a short story, but you get court dates, you got to wait 4 months before you get to see them, and then another 6 months. And it just, so this was almost a 2 year process. And the nice thing is I had Bonnie, and the sad part was, for a little bit, she was financing me. And that's why it took me so long to marry her, because I
talk about pride. When we talk about, talk about the male ego and how we have to beat that thing into submission sometimes and allow ourselves to be loved, allow ourselves to be taken care of. Yeah. I mean, you know this from again, the bridge. You tested it. You actually had it happen. It's nice to be able to say it, but you actually you humbled yourself in ways that astound me, Ian.
I appreciate that.
I'm inspired by the way that you were able to, because you're a big, strong dude, Mason, artist, phenomenal craftsman. You are a craftsman. And I mean, that's not a word that I throw around easily these days.
Take a lot of pride in what I do.
Yeah. And you had to humble yourself and accept a lot of shit.
Yep.
And I that right there is astounding to me. That must have been really difficult, but I want to go back to that moment. So there was a moment, you said.
And we, like I say, it was then going to be another 30 grand to do an appeal. And again, we probably thought we would win. And then the next step was to fight to take the girls away from their mother. And I didn't like that she was taking them away from me, so I didn't want to take them away from her. So
you had a move where, like, it could be facilitated by the authorities.
Yes.
That you would have two not very happy girls.
Yes.
But they would be awarded to you. And you had a move that you could have executed to make that happen.
Yes.
And you chose at that point not to. And this is the moment you're talking about?
Yes. Yeah. Because they didn't, like I say, I didn't like what every counselor said was that they should have both parents. Right. So, and that's what that's girls need their dads. They need their mothers. And that's why when you go through this right away, there's a course that you take for, divorce with kids or whatever. And you have to,
that course exists. I didn't know that course existed.
There's a course that you have to take. And so I didn't want to yank, because I didn't like the girls not being with me. And then that's when you just have to say the reality of it is, and you walk away and be happy what you have. Because by this time, I knew that I was very much in love with Bonnie and Savannah, and that was kind of there, and that was the end. And then I went quite a while doing what the court said, forced visits, and they'd come. And then finally my youngest did come around for a little bit at 13. I was able to get her a job, and I have a very fortunate buddy that owns a restaurant. He said he'd hire her at 13. Normally he doesn't hire them till 16. And so then that way I got to see my daughter.
I know where I'm going for lunch.
Yeah,
I know where I'm going for.
Exactly. And the nice thing was, and at first I really thought it was, and I truly believe now too, like we had some very good moments, like her and I golfed together there, and we went on trips together. There was times she was laughing. So I know there is good memories there, but the sad part about it is it's bit of a loyalty bind for her if she's happy with me and can make her mom unhappy or whatever. So you
have an understanding as to the difficult spot that they're in.
And I still to this day, it's not my girl's fault, it's nothing they did. They were young, they were manipulative. That's probably not the right word, but
you believe that they had wool pulled over their eyes,
exactly,
and aimed in the direction of something that wasn't true, and had another side of the story.
Though, they're in a loyalty bind. More so than anything. If they showed loyalty to me, it was disloyal. They felt it was disloyal to their mom. And the counselor mentioned that in, the psychiatric evaluation. And so these girls were in a bind because if they showed affection to me, it made their mother mad.
They're in a no-win situation.
Exactly.
So they made the best of it, and they went with the dog there, the horse that
survive. And just like everybody.
Well, there are guys going through this right now. And that point, I think, because the tendency for us guys sometimes is to squeeze so tight so we can win. and in that's egoic right there, because if we're thinking about what we're winning and you think about the psyche of the small creatures that we love so much that won't win. Yeah. And that is a tremendous insight that I think that is food for thought for guys who are going through this stuff.
Yeah, I am very jealous of different friends of mine that said they can sit down and bottle of wine with their wife and divvy things up, and and they all get to see their kids, and and that's the way it should be. Sometimes people can't cohabitate, and you got to go your different ways.
Well, that's Modern Family now. I'm a 45-year-old grandfather, as if to the most amazing little 3-year-old. As a result of Modern Family. Mm-hmm. And Modern Family can be beautiful. And you talk about, shattered glass can be also a stained glass mural. It can be turned into something beautiful. And Modern Family can be that way. My hope for you, my prayer for you, all of that, my manifesting for you is that you will discover that Modern Family and your girls will come back to your life at some point. Yep. Let's say you get hit by a bus tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And your girls actually receive the documents, all of the things. Okay. And they actually decide for whatever reason to open them and to read those things. Okay. Mm-hmm. Will they be shocked by what they read?
The sad part is I don't think so. I think their mothers filled them in on a lot of things. Because dealing with my youngest, the one psychologist, as far as they were concerned, didn't know anything. And so, yes, I think they will be shocked. Yes. No,
because they will see not just from you talking about it, they'll see in legalese exactly. The other side of the story.
Exactly.
And you think there'll be a bunch of things that they'll be like,
oh, we didn't know that.
Shit.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And it will be one of those things where, it'll be too late because you get hit by a bus yesterday or tomorrow or whatever.
Exactly.
Right. And that's one possible outcome of this story.
Because I'll give you a prime example, and they will not know things because on Easter's, I used to sneak up to the house and put Easter eggs all in the front garden.
Oh my God, you're breaking my heart.
And I'd do that about 5 a.m, and then I would leave. And then the sad part is when Lisa and I got to communicating again when she was 13 to 19, I'd ask her, oh, did you like the Easter egg stuff? And she'd never saw it. So, oh my God. And so I don't know if mom went and took it in the back and said she brought it or what the deal was, but Lisa didn't know a thing about it. So that, yes, there will be things because I I made quite a comprehensive, and
you journaled it out as part
Yes.
of your counseling. You've journaled this.
yes, and
To get it out of you, to heal, to do the right
the
things, to get your mind and your heart in the right place.
exactly, yes,
And if they get that and they read that, I mean, what if I think about like if I'm estranged, my dad and I were estranged for a few years. He went through his own battle. If you want to listen to the podcast, I've had him on and we've talked about it. He had anger issues, right? And I used to think about if he died along the way, and some of these unresolved things weren't resolved. I used to think about that, and it would keep me up at night sometimes.
yeah,
And I mean, my bucket of that is nowhere near the chasm of material that you have in that same vein, and these girls have, and I just,
and that's what bothers me. If I pass away, I'm worried that the girls, if they'll, and at least maybe in my heart, I hope they'll feel remorse because they didn't get to reconcile, I would like to reconcile before I pass away so that, that they didn't go, oh geez, what could we have?
And it's not just putting your life in order. It's because you love your girls.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. And it, I just, like I say, I wake up every day thinking maybe I will get that call. Every birthday, every Christmas, I send an email. I have old email addresses. I don't know if they see them or not.
But you faithfully do it anyway. Just
yes,
with
exactly.
blind
Yes.
faith, hoping.
Yep. And again, that was through a counselor that said, just keep the message the same. Miss you, love you, would love to see you. And, that's, and I just hoping one day they'll come around.
This is a sad story. You dealt with it in a very productive way. You dealt with, and that's the measure of a man. It's how we deal with the things that come down the pike. There are guys out there right now who are burying this shit. Mm-hmm. They're going through it and they're burying it. They're pushing it down and they're in denial about it. They're drinking, they're smoking, they're fucking, they're doing things that are unproductive, destructive even to the situation. And, guys who hear this right now, what's your advice for them?
My biggest advice would be to try to, I really think the counseling helped me and the friendship, like reach out to people and talk. And like, that was one thing that really stands out in my head the most is that bottle scenario. If that bottle gets too full, it wants to pop. And then that's when you do stupid things and, scream at the ex or whatever when you shouldn't and things like that. And so I think the biggest thing is talk about it if you can. I was very fortunate. And the way things have changed, the counseling that I got to was through, it wasn't very expensive anyway.
There are lots of whatever community you're in, chances are there's some sort of, inexpensive counseling route of some sort. Yeah.
Because once my wife and I split up, then the counseling got a whole bunch more because the insurance wasn't paying for it. And and then even, I guess the biggest thing is, and I haven't seen Ellen in about a year now, but because of pandemic and all this, but every so often I just, cause she knows she's met my girls, she saw the trauma and everything like that. So that's why I go see her and, release it. And I'm very fortunate. I have a lot of good friends, that are willing to listen and, they know my story. And the crazy thing is, like, I've had to ask many of them at the time for character references. So a lot of them know the story very well and understand. And surround yourself around good people, and that helps a ton.
And that weathers the storm, right?
Yes, definitely. Keep busy. I found that working a lot for me.
So don't become lethargic. Don't be sitting alone and
exactly get up and
get your hands busy doing something.
Yes,
whatever it is.
Exactly.
Work.
I put it into work.
Yeah.
And because
did you become a better Mason because of this?
I don't know. I was pretty good before.
Maybe did a couple extra jobs that you wouldn't have done otherwise.
Exactly.
You're busier Mason, maybe.
Busier, yes. Yeah.
Your work is gorgeous.
I've been very fortunate. I enjoy my job immensely. I like my job as much as it's beat up my body over the years. I still enjoy it, and it's a great trade. And
talking earlier, I told you time was slippery. There we go. It's almost done. I do want to finish with one one point here. I'm astounded by, I know how I feel about my granddaughter. Okay. And so I know that you and I are kindred, and we're kindred with any other man who's ever loved a small child, whether they've come from their loins, whether they've come from the loins, whether it's through Modern Family. Anytime you've got that bond with a child like that, and we're kindred with many, many other men right now. And we know that feeling, and you can't really even describe it. But if I just talk about it right now, oh yeah, I know that feeling. Okay. I know how much you love your girls. And I know that because even just talking to you off camera and how it beams out of you still. And you haven't talked to them in friggin' forever, and it still beams out of you. And how much you love them.
Yeah.
The thing that touches me is a little earlier in this conversation. You get hit by a bus tomorrow. What's the concern? And yeah, your life is not in order. Okay, whatever. You're dead. You don't know that. But the feeling that you're feeling, the fear or the trepidation that they will either learn something or have unresolved issues for the rest of their lives, that trumps even that kindred feeling of how a man feels for the child in the life. You care for them so much that is your overarching reason that you want reconciliation. It's even more than the love you have. Would you buy it if you could? Sure, you'd buy it. Of course you would.
Yeah.
That's selfish.
Yeah.
But you care, and you said it earlier, you care more for them for the rest of their lives once you're gone. And that to me shows true love.
Well, they're your kids. You always you'll have it, and anybody that has a kid knows that. And I've had friends that have lost them, and I've seen the heartbreak that they've had when they've had that. And
because you can't fix it at that point.
Nope, exactly. And or at least I still have a little hope, and that's what keeps going. Is that, like I said, I've got two very good friends that have lost their kids and that were young, and they don't have the chance I still have. And so I hope, and that's part of having faith too, is that one day that they will come around, and you just got to hope and keep praying that it will happen. Yeah.
So here's the question, Ian.
Yeah.
If you could say anything to your daughters right now, what would it be?
I love you. I miss you. And I would love to see you. And that has never changed. It'll always be. And it's just the way it is. Yeah. They're my girls. Yeah. And hopefully one day they will come around. Yeah. But, yeah. It's all good.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I know that wasn't easy for you to do this. And I know your love for them because I experience it in my life. And there's that saying, a fisherman can always recognize another fisherman. I've used that in a few different scenarios. This is a beautiful one. It's a tragic one. My hope and my faith is that this turns into something for you that ends up being that beautiful stained glass made out of broken colored pieces of glass. I really hope that for you, Ian. I just want to say thank you very much for being open and honest and taking this story of yours and using it to help others. And that was the whole reason why you agreed to do this. Yeah. You know, you're like cameras and you're like, I've never done this before. I didn't know. Now, first off, I'm just going to say this before the cameras shut it off. Fucking good job, buddy. This was awesome. Good. You were phenomenal on here. And I know that I had to kind of nudge you a little bit that it was going to work out, and it really, really did. And I just want to say thank you so much for being vulnerable and for teaching that being vulnerable is the way to go if you want to be able to get past things like this. Thank you, Ian. I can't thank you enough for this. Well,
this would be a great thing that you're doing here with the app and everything. So that's why I thought I'd be part of it. Because, like I say, I've got a few friends I'm helping right now privately, and hopefully it can help a few other people. And hopefully nobody has to go through this that I went through. Well, and if they do, they go through it stronger. Yep. And it feels good to be the one that carves the path through the jungle so we can help lead people, and their journey through the jungle is a little easier. And I think that's a universal man thing that I think a lot of guys feel. And I just thank you for being that guy, Ian. I appreciate it. And I get excited when people call me and ask me about it, because for some reason I had to go through this crap, and maybe this is the reason to help other people. Who knows? Yeah. Yeah. They go by quick. That's another episode of HeCast again. If you know of anybody who might be going through something like this, please share this with them, this conversation. Hey, I'm going to throw this out there.
If anybody knows Ian's girls, please share this with them. And, this is what He Changed It is all about, guys helping other guys, using the experiences, both good and bad things that we learn. Success leaves clues, surviving leaves clues. And I just want to talk about how grateful I am for a second. Thank you so much for this community that is rapidly growing. Thank you so much for everybody who's already been an early adopter of the app, who has already shared and subscribed and all that crap. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate all of our guests. And that is another episode of HeCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. My name is Mike Chisholm. Go change something.